Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now today's video is a part of the series talking about the migration review report of the April 2023. Obviously, on the day of the release, I provide a brief glimpse of what the report is all about. Now today I'm gonna take you to the actual. I think this is most attractive informations. Now we gotta note that the review report is basically a report that's received by all type of different recommendation and proposal around Australia and compiled into another proposal should be and that's presented to the government of Australia. So it doesn't mean that the policy and law will actually 100% match towards what they propose, but it's more of the direction provided or pointed for the government to move ahead. How should the policy and strategically plan it ahead for whatever the law or policy or regulation that's gonna be in the future. So let's have a look at the possible reform directions. I think this part is the most exciting part because it actually provides us the way how the Australian visa system will likely to be in the future. Alright, so let's jump in there. It's part of that 195 pages, just right after the introduction of different chapters. So you may find this page or this information online as well. So as they say, reform direction of government to consider. So it's not the law yet. It's the reform proposal that's putting in front of the government. So whether or not the government will consider it and how they will move ahead for the new policies. And this is, well, sort of the map, shall I say. So through the course of a panel deliberation, we arrived at a set of reform directions. And let's have a look at the possible reform directions. So, number one. Alright, let's have a read. Adopt a clear set of objection principle guide migration system to form foundation of migration strategy for the next 2 decades. So what does it say? That is basically meant there has to be some sort of strategy. It's a post-pandemic era, and we need to look ahead for the next 20 years with all the IT technology, talents around the world, how the world perhaps will become, and we should aim for that changes of the next 2 decades. So it doesn't give you a real regulated stuff, but again, this what I just said, it's more of a roadmap and a direction pointed for the government. Number two, ensure the single area government with deep expertise is charged in stewarding the migration system with all visa product design developed by the department. So I'm not too sure why it says ensure single area of government. Perhaps currently there is obviously I don't work in the government or the administrative part of this industry, so perhaps there are multiple areas dealing with in the government dealing with the visa now. Don't know, I thought there's only one department, immigration. But anyhow, they wanted to have more clear and knowing who which part of the government, that single part of the government is actually dealing with all these issues. So number three, develop, evaluate, plan migration system based on the outcome government wishes to achieve throughout migration. So develop evaluation plan. So there's got to be check and balances. So there's a checking mechanism required to be developed. So in order to evaluate, you need to see whether or not the checkpoint has been done. So perhaps there is no evaluation plan at this stage, or it hasn't been like that for the past 20-30 years perhaps. Anyway, okay, so that's again the administrative part of the government. Develops data strategy to support migration evaluation plan. So I think this is matched with the point number 3 there, but it's more data driven. As you know, currently technology can be utilized with big data and artificial intelligence and things like that. So it needs to be integrated. Okay, so again, that's more the administrative part of the government. Okay, number 5. Move planning migration over a long-term time horizon. I think this is more matching with the 2-decade thing up to the first point there. So you need to have a planning for longer planning rather than fixing a shortcoming issues. So for instance, for the past 12 months, the government has been trying to fix the skill shortage and things like that, or they were laws being passed to actually deal with short-term needs on the migration. So they need to look for long term. I thought they were always been looking long term, but anyhow, it seems to be what it says sometimes reflects to the current system where it's not a long-term planning system at this stage, perhaps. Okay, that's again an administrative part of the government. Okay, planned migration based on net overseas migration, which account both permanent and temporary resident rather than simply rely on permanent migration cap. Well, I'm pretty welcome with that one. I'm not too sure why they didn't count the temporary residents back then, because all these people coming from international students or working holiday makers and things, they don't count it as a migrant. Well, it's weird. I don't know why it used to be that way, or it has been that way until today. Anyway, okay, number 7. Work across the government with state and territory, consider how best migration can help. I think they're already doing that, but perhaps they haven't done it well enough. Perhaps I'm noticing that in the past 10 years, all the state and territory is giving out all the different jargons, and for example, some state call ROI, some states call decision ready, all kind of different acronyms and all kind of different criteria. So perhaps it's time for the federal government to come and say, look, everybody, let's work together. All right. And better target permanent skill visa. Exciting. Let's have number 8. Revisit the allocation in place across permanent skill program. In particular, reconsider the size role of the BIP program. So that's the Business Innovation Investment Program. Noting more positive outcome from the significant investor visa. Consider how to manage allocation places for the state and territories and regional, including possible consolidation of these programs. So consolidation means the whole BIP program will be consolidated into I don't know, perhaps just one stream. I'm not too sure. All right, number 9. Collaborate the point test to select migrant with high human capital. So this is the key word, high human capital. What does that really mean? It means skill, talented personnel, but I thought skill migration always tackled those ones. So question will be who will be defined, not a high human capital. I'm not too sure, but see how that goes. Who will make the greatest long-term economy contribution? And number 10, consider change of existing global talent visa to improve clarity in selection criteria and remove the need for nomination. So no more nomination? Not too sure. I thought because a nomination is a way to attest whether or not this candidate or applicant is globally talented. So if there's no nomination needed, who is gonna attest, or just rely based on the immigration officer? Again, this is we're gonna roll back. This is a possible reform direction. It's not 100% set yet. So I have question mark if they remove nomination. So you rely on case officer to go through all type of different technology and global talents, from agriculture to advanced manufacturing to IC design to space tech to fintech. You're accounting the case officer to have all these kind of knowledges in order to assess the global talent GTI candidates or applicants. I don't think anyone would be able to do that. So I think nomination is still very important from what I see here. So removing the nomination. So who is going to attest these GTI talents? Or just rely on the global talent candidate to present themselves. But again, if you don't have the knowledge, how do you know the presentation is, 10 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 or 1 out of 10, right? Anyway, let's see what happened. Number 11, rely on expertise on JSA. That's job and skill job and skill association, or anyway, or it's just the committee things to identify labor needs or market salary rates. So that's welcome on that one. Remove the requirement labor market testing. Great, beautiful. No more LMT. Okay, renewing, strengthen the Ministerial Advisory Council on Skill Migration, MACSM. So whatever that is, for tripartite advisory body. I'm not too sure how that will work, but anyway, see what happens. 14, draw advice of the JSA to further inform the tripartite approach. Oh, well, okay, right, all right. I don't know how that will work anyway. I thought that's already, they're going to renew and strengthen that, and they're going to join that. So that would be a JSA MACSM. I'm not too sure. Anyway, see how that go. Increase the temporary skill migration income. So that's already done. It's been announced by the Minister of Home Affairs, Claire O'Neill, a couple of days ago. From it's going to be 70,000 by 1st July. Okay, now continue on. 16th, adopt risk-based regulation temporary labor migration with this light touch high salary cohort. All right, okay, and so that's the 3 streams. Remember, if you've been watching the news, they're talking about 3 streams for the working visa. So the light touch, high salary cohort, that would be the high income earners, and how the law is going to be like, don't know yet. Okay, so that's likely to be taken. Mid-level cohort, that's just for the general working people. And the number 3, subject to further consideration, cross-government low wage cohort, how that would go. It's definitely required, because in the regional agricultural areas, there's a lot of low-ended skill, but still in shortage. They still need people there. How are they gonna cater that? Currently it's under the regional occupation list, but I'm not too sure how that will work. And they work this through Dharma, remember? Very complicated stuff, where you find an employer, and the employer need to get an agreement with the immigration that take 2-3 years, and then the applicants already don't have the visa and gone. So anyway, see how that go. Okay, 17, allow temporary migration worker to move from current employer to find work with another employer with the same sector or job family. Well, I think that's very, very good, because currently, if you wanted to, if you find another, for example, if you're a chef employed by employer A, and you wanted to change your employer to employer B, and you still work as a chef or cook, technically you can't, right? So you need to lodge another nomination of that new employer, and that bounded the freedom for the employees. So then the new employer will go, oh wow, I need to go another nomination application that will likely take 3 or 6 months, but I cannot employ the guy that I want. See the problem there? You don't have your freedom on the labor market has been strained in a way. So this is very good. I think it will be implemented for surely. Require all employer and temporary visa holder to register employment for light touch process. I'm not too sure how that will go. I think that's going to be a new IT system, a software or app on the iPhone. So then they can punch in the stuff, and they will have history breaches and things on deregistration and eligibility of employment visa holders. So that will be some sort of systems perhaps connected to your smartphones. 19, require employee fees charged to pay monthly rather than upfront. That's very good, because currently everything needs to pay upfront. The employer, if they wanted to employ somebody, unknowing whether or not the visa is going to go through, they're going to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. That is costing, on your large corporation, that's fine, but for small, medium-sized businesses, that's just not viable. Number 20, provide migrant worker to target train workplace law condition. Well, very welcome on that one. 21, improve post-arrival monitoring and compliance. I think they're already doing that, but they're gonna connect. They have been talking about connecting that to the tax file number. Seems to be they haven't done so. Okay. 22, review on driver that have created continuing temporary permanently temporary cohort with the review. So again, that's been on the news. So they're gonna I think Claire O'Neill has announced that by the end of this year, 2023, she's gonna announce all type of different stream allowing all the temporary visa holders in Australia in order to transfer into a permanent residency. So very good. Ensure primary focus on the working holiday program is cultural exchange and does not operate in migration outcome to perform the work subject to Australian obligation under the trade or other international agreement, considering limiting working holiday visa holder to 1 year. So rather than using working holiday visa, and what it does is it currently offers a second or third working holiday visa, allowing these working holiday makers to continue to stay in Australia to work on the farm, because it's basically a shortage in those areas in the agriculture industry. So they're gonna turn that back to exchange type and more of the traveling social. Not too sure how that will work. I mean, it's the freedom for the visa holder, for the working holiday makers. They got the visa to choose whether or not they're going to focus on holiday or working. But if you want to, force them to culture, I don't know how they're going to do that, but see how that go. Okay, number 24, introduce a parent visa lottery to prevent further application backlog. Wow, interesting. So if you're on a parent visa applicant, you can now, every year there's a lottery, and if you win it, wow, great. You don't have to wait for another 6 years. Yeah, you get parent visa straight away. Well, great idea. I think that's gonna work. Okay. 25, introduce cheaper, attractive temporary visa product for parent to might long-term replace permanent parent program. That's very good. Because currently there's no options. There's always all those outdated visa, and you lodged it. It's all paper-based, by the way. There's no electronic base. And then you gotta wait. And some of them, if you don't have the visa, you cannot even stay in Australia. And once you're going through the approval, you need to go to Centrelink and go through those assurance of support, paying all these monies, or get people to actually sponsor you as a guarantor. Painful. So if they can do this, I think I'm pretty welcome this idea. 26, review student visa working hour cap, including whether unpaid work, integrate earning, internship, and work experience are counted towards the cap. And not too sure how that works, and I'm not too sure how they can account, calculate, or administer all these kind of working hours. I don't know how they're gonna do it. They can't do it now, but anyway, provide temporary graduate visa automatically upon study completion. I don't know how that will work as well, because currently every institution, every university have different, and their program have different completion and graduation dates. So how would that work automatically? How do they detect? How do they know the student completed the course and the student has the good character and automatically giving him the visa? What if the I don't know. I don't know how that will work. So anyway, 28, align the duration of a temporary graduate visa with the time required. Identify high potential graduate with the succeed on permanent skill visa. So now this is a little bit vague, but we need to see the parameters, how they actually identify those students who may succeed towards getting a PR. So anyway, isn't that the same nowadays? But anyway, I don't know how that will work. Perhaps for a high achieve GPA student, how they have done the criteria in South Australia's state nomination, they will say, oh, if you get GPA this amount or this number, we are highly consider nominating you. So perhaps something like that, or you are PhD graduates, you'll get you'll meet these parameters as well. I'm not too sure. Okay. Explore option to provide certain direct permanent residency pathway for a very narrow defined group of students. All right, isn't that the same as that? But anyway, there's another group of narrow defined students then. Okay, align English language requirement of the student or guardian visa, a graduate visa with a skill visa English language requirement. Don't we have that already? I'm not too sure what's trying to say. So perhaps some other mechanism in some news media says that they're gonna raise the requirement of English proficiency for international students. I mean, it's quite high now. If what do they want? I'm not too sure how that will go. If they go further, if they lift it higher, you probably lose 20-30% of international students. All right, move the genuine temperate entrance criteria to genuine student tests. Now, isn't that the same? Just changing the name. So I'm not too sure how the tests will be like. Perhaps they have different ideas. Now, 32, revisit the scope of settlement integration support program, viewing making them more responsive to locals' differences in settlement location and migration. Well, good, okay. 33, review newly arrived resident wait period to help improve government to understand the impact of the policy measure on the migrant outcome. That's more administrative stuff. Invest in social enterprise and other focus drive migration outcome. That's again the administration of the government. 35, lead alongside state territories. Strategy overseas efforts, streamline skill recognition. So it's again the same administrative stuff. 36, almost to the end. Examine visa processing arrangement for Southeast Asia and the Pacific to ensure we are presenting welcome face to our region while balancing the risk. Isn't that what we're already doing now? Not too sure. Perhaps they haven't. Maybe, or may need to put more focus. Don't know. All right. Invest in Department of Home Affairs capability to deliver migration system, including through ongoing investment in ICT system. I thought that's already been there. So what's happening? So they haven't invested enough. Again, that's the administration part of the government. Undertake the phase of program to legislative review and reform. All right, whatever that is. I'm not too sure what that is. Anyway, okay, so that's the... again, this is what they call positive direction for reform. It's not actually the law yet, but it's a gather of different type of recommendation all around since late last year until early this year, and the committee has compiled this review report, and based on these information, they have provided this positive reform. I think it's pretty good, pretty welcome. With the media report, it's basically aligned with what had been proposed on the directive. But let's see. We haven't seen the actual law yet, but it's going to be an exciting couple weeks. Or perhaps month. Some of these is talking about the whole system, how the ICT thing, all that doesn't really reflect to us anyway. But anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.